Welcome, 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 everyone, to another episode of the Option Menu Crew podcast. This is episode 47, and today our topic is going to be about video game marketing and the hype cycle because it's been the month of not E3. We're recording this at the end of June, so you should be getting this right as July comes up. Um, yeah, we're actually recording a bit closer to the release date of the episode. I'm going to try and edit it a lot faster to make it a bit more timely. And I feel like this topic makes a lot of sense for this because usually we would have planned for doing an episode around E3. I'm your first crew member, Ryan, and I've also got with us Ed today. How you doing, Ed?
Good, good. I think this is a good time to talk about things. I think we're gonna have a few more announcements this month, but we have a lot of examples of good and bad marketing cycles, especially since we've been following everything pretty closely. At least I have past few years, more than I have in past years. So I think I have a good perspective to contribute. Um,
Mm-hmm. We're kind of on opposite ends of the marketing cycle here. That's pretty. So I think we're gonna have a really good conversation. And like you were saying, there's probably some more um announcements coming up, and everyone's anticipating like a general Nintendo Direct. The Xenoblade Chronicles 3 dedicated Direct just recently happened. I didn't watch it. Did you watch it?
No, I'm not too interested in that game. I didn't really like the first two, but
I
I
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like maybe I could get suckered in again and play another 10 hours of the third game and then decide I didn't like it. But, that would be my fault to be fooled again.
Yeah, I want to be into that series. It's just the battle systems don't really appeal to me. I did play Xenoblade Chronicles X on Wii U because it had the giant robots, so I kind of stomached it, but it's a very much a similar battle system that's like the semi-real time where everything's based on cooldowns. Um it just I just wish they were real-time action, and I'm like either go full turn-based or go full action. This in-between thing is always just so much more annoying because there's all these weird inconsistencies that just make it not fun, not engaging. It's ugh. The robots were cool though, and the open world was cool. So, the
Yeah, I
characters.
played I played the definitive edition of the first one, and same thing. I didn't like the battle system that much, and the story and characters were a bit too like shonen for me.
Mm.
And the second one is just like it cranks up the weebiness like to 11.
But it has
So
the waifus, and I know you love the waifus.
I I don't know. It's too much for me. I think
It's too much waifu. Wow,
too much,
it's a bold
too
statement.
much weebiness. That's a common opinion. A lot of people couldn't stand it, but
Yeah, I'm I none of that really bothers me. Of course, it gets a little cringy, but at the same time, like I can excuse a lot of it because if everything else, apparently those plots go places, and from the summaries I've heard, like they're actually really good. So, and I would say actually those plots are really good. So, yeah, putting up with it though can be difficult if you don't have if you're not used to it or you can't really stomach it. But anyways, yeah, we're I don't think I'm really waiting for any other sort of announcements right now. But Ed, why don't you start us off by setting the stage of like what is like your ideal mark as a consumer of video games? What is your ideal like amount of marketing you want to see for like a brand new game or even like a sequel and an announcement, a new announcement from like the original announcement to its release date? What does that kind of look like in your preference?
so I think you and I have gone back and forth on this in our private conversations, just about whether or not games should be announced years ahead of time. There's some games that they announce them and it takes 10 years to actually get to release. And then there's other games where it's only a few months. And for a while I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of like the hype. I like to hear about a game early in its development, but I think I've come around to the point where I prefer it just to be, maybe 2, 3, 4 months max before they between announcement to release. And I guess like there's two polar opposites in a series that I like Metroid. You know, you have Metroid Prime 4, where they announced it with a logo, and like everyone went wild just seeing the logo. So people were happy, but they've restarted the development. I think that's been like, did they do that in 2019 that they announced that wasn't up to their standards? So they're giving it to Retro. They were having like Bandai Namco be the developer, I think.
I'm looking it up.
I think it's 3 years ago at this point. So maybe we'll get something at the direct this year. Um,
Not
but
that
then
they
you
don't have.
have the app.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Not that they don't have other games to focus on, because Bayonetta 3 is still supposedly coming out this year. Splatoon 3 is definitely coming out this year. Xenoblade 3, I believe, is this year. iPhone for next
Yeah,
book.
and maybe we'll hear about the Advance Wars release date. I know they delayed that because of
Didn't come out yet?
current events. No, it still hasn't come yet.
Still
It's always,
hasn't. Oh wow.
yeah.
Okay. So it debuted in E3 2017. And then 2018, Reggie Fils-Aimé confirms it's well into development and proceeding well. And then early 2019, general
Yeah, that's what I
manager
thought.
Shinya Takahashi announced development had restarted under Retro Studios with Tanabe. So, and then October 2020, Retro posted a job advertisement seeking storyboard artists to work on emotional and interesting, innovative scenes that elevate the narrative.
Oh boy.
So
I know
that
what that means.
means they were probably looking for another writer. They probably didn't have a good enough
But
writer.
emotional development, like that doesn't sound like a good sign for Metroid.
I mean, okay, let's use like the best example we've got right now, which is Dread. Dread came out really well and has like some stuff in it that's kind of emotional.
I guess that's true. It has like minimal story, but what's there is well done.
Yeah, and I don't think
But
there's anything wrong with making Samus like seem like a person, a multi-dimensional person who's like can feel sad and can feel like emotions and sympathy for other people. It's not like she doesn't have those qualities. It's just like the over dramatic way that like Other M did it was not the way to handle it, or at least it's not the way that fans wanted it handled. So yeah, no, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It just is funny that like the game was so early, it was announced so early with it not really having anything. So, yeah, Ed, did you want to say anything else before I did?
well, I was gonna say the other extreme was the marketing cycle for Metroid Dread, where it was announced in June. They put up some gameplay and had a few other trailers, and then it came out in October. And I really thought that was perfect. So, having seen those two extremes in a series that I care about, I think I've come around to the point where I think, maybe 6 months max, it would be smart to announce a game and then have it release. I mean, I know sometimes plans don't go always as a publisher wants them to, but ideally they should have a pretty good idea of when it's going to come out before they announce it.
Okay. And what's like your bare minimum for the amount of information you want to see for like an initial announcement for a game?
I'd like to see a gameplay trailer and an initial announcement because all these cinematic trailers don't really tell you anything about the game. Um, and I guess that's one thing that was kind of nice about the um, this recent Xbox and Bethesda showcase is they did have a lot of gameplay for games, and they were focusing on games that at least are planned to come out in the next 12 months. So that was actually a pretty good show as far as that kind of marketing goes. Um, so I guess 6 months would be ideal, but I could tolerate 12 months. But a lot can change in a year too. So I think it's risky to set a release date, 10 or 12 months in the future when a lot can go wrong.
Do delays bother you at all, or like, or do you just like roll with it? Like, okay, like if a release date comes out and then has to be delayed again. Do you care?
No, it doesn't bother me. And I think that's pretty much the general sentiment these days among, you know, social media and everything, people online is like, especially after the absolute mess that Cyberpunk was, I
Mhm.
think people are like, okay, delay it, no problem. We just want it to be good. So I think people have really embraced the idea that a delay is not ideal, but if it's necessary, it's better than releasing it in a an awful state.
Yeah, I hope that had a good knock-on effect. And of course, there will always be people that will cry, "I want it now." But what I've seen from a fan base that I guess I associate with is like Sonic Frontiers was being shown off this month, and what they showed off for the most part wasn't that impressive. And a lot of people I've seen online are saying, delay the game. Like, nope, this isn't you. You're not far enough. You're on the right track, but take that back and give it another 12 months. Come back. Let's take a look and see if you're ready. Give it some more time to bake. And I think, it's hard to ever tell how many iterations these games went through. We'll get some information usually as part of the marketing cycle about the hype and like what their decision making is. IGN had a whole like month-long coverage plan with Sega for Sonic Frontiers, and it's been interesting, but at the same time, like it just kind of shows that I don't think these guys are really paying attention to like modern game design or like the competition. Specifically on Sonic Frontiers, uh, I have played already two pretty cool Sonic style games in the last like year and a half, which I believe I did talk about in the podcast. I definitely talked about with you, Ed, before, was The Pathless, which was an early PlayStation 5 indie release. And it's on PC, and I think it came to PS4 as well. Um, that game, very open worldish, and the character can run around, and there's like a gimmick that helps give you speed boosts, and part of it is like chasing down big enemies and solving some puzzles in a mostly open world environment, but slightly zoned out as you like unlock progression into the next zone. And I felt very Sonic-y, not as free running as like Sonic is, and what I would say is one of the more successful aspects that was shown off is that Sonic Frontiers seems to get how Sonic should feel and be able to move through an environment. And then the other game that is even more like literally this is what a Sonic game, a modern Sonic game would feel and look like, was Solar Ash. And that I was super impressed. Like from the second I started playing this game, I was just like, this is a Sonic game. Okay. Like it just blew me away. I'm like, it had rail grinding, it had this running, it had this boosting, you did all this jumping and platforming and exploration. There was just a little bit of combat, just enough combat to make it interesting, collecting like certain items and stuff like that. And the way it was like laid out, it just, I wish I could send an email to Sega and just be like, yo, you got to look at these games and see what people are doing. Also, and props to Sega, they really do let their fans, like they respect the fan game community. As long as you don't try to make it for profit, they're pretty much like, go ahead, make as many Sonic fan games you want. And there's this one, it's basically a demo, but it's really cool. I might have even sent you a video, Ed. It's called Sonic Utopia. And it's a concept for like what an open world or open zone, as like Sega's trying to push for Frontiers, is like what it'd be like to be like old school Sonic running in a 3D space with the world designed like the old Sega Genesis style levels, and then kind of mixing and matching all the different elements into one space and all these like nooks and crannies to explore, but having like the loop-de-loops and enemies and places you can jump and ramp off of. It's been super fun, and I've found myself like going back to the demo and just playing it. Like it's one zone, you can easily clear it and just run through it from one thing to another, but it's so fun to just be in that space, run around, and then look for the secrets. And like there's alternate paths to different things, and so I could totally see like a full game where it's like each zone is kind of like it'd almost be like the way Sonic Generations was, where it's like mixing matching from all the different games. Like you could have a Sonic 2 world that has a bunch of the different aspects to it, and you just kind of find them. The Sonic Utopia is basically all Sonic 1, So that's pretty neat there, with like some of the different stages like tucked away in caverns and caves and stuff, and the aesthetic looks correct. Yeah, I could totally see that, and I just feel like, this is not a new idea by any means, so I'm kind of echoing some other people's opinions online. Is like Sonic Team doesn't seem to ever stick to an idea long enough to really refine it. They always like reinvent the wheel with just about every game that isn't a 2D Sonic game. So it's tough. And I think like a lot of their 2D games are fun. And even then, like a higher budget 2D game could be a ton of fun because what was it? Sonic Mania, which was an homage sequel to all the 2D Sonic games, was amazing. There's the Sonic Advance series, which is beloved. Not exactly my favorite, but I see a lot of people online talking about Sonic Advance 1, 2, and 3 is like really good. And then I'm a huge fan of the DS series Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure, which I'm more fond of Sonic Rush 1. So I would be cool if they even took that and like remade it just with a higher budget and put it out so it didn't have to be trapped on the DS, on even if it had to be just exclusively Nintendo platforms. I would love it, especially because also Sonic's really cool, but I also think the new character Blaze the cat that they introduced in that was also a great character design and a great foil to Sonic, for the modern times. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that. Sorry, derailed a lot there. So yeah, any other notes on like your preferred marketing styles, Ed?
It's kind of fun when they announce like a special edition that's pretty cool. I know that's mostly a marketing thing. They want to get people hyped and get people pre-ordering. So that's kind of fun. But there's been a few that I have pre-ordered that I wasn't so happy with, and actually, like recently, a few that I almost pre-ordered the special edition. I found I wasn't really interested in the game by the time I tried it. So it's like now I'm kind of like I wish there was a way to just like buy the special edition after you've tried the game, which sometimes there is. Sometimes by the time it comes out, there's like a ton of them, and sometimes the special editions even go on discount because they made too many of them. But that doesn't always happen, particularly for like the Nintendo ones. They usually underproduce. They don't like to have too many. But I'm kind of off special editions now because a lot of times I find I didn't like the game as much as I thought I was going to. So then you're just like left with a bunch of junk for a game you didn't like that much. Maybe I don't like that aspect of marketing as much as I used to.
Yeah, we'll loop back around to the pre-order bonus stuff. But you made that point about the sometimes they restock or they're still available. I forget. I think it was probably on Amazon. I saw a tweet about there were more Metroid Dread special editions, and I was like, I keep thinking, I'm like, that art book looks cool, and I think you got it, right? You got the special edition.
I did.
Dread. And
I got it after it came out. I happened to see a restock at GameStop.
Nice. Yeah, that's the thing. That one's been restocked a bit, and I feel like I bought the game digitally, so I don't need the physical copy. But like having that art book would be really cool. And I think I don't remember if you showed it to me before, but it's actually a pretty good size, right?
Yeah, it's pretty big. Like maybe it's like the size of a piece of printer paper, maybe a little bigger, turn in landscape orientation.
Ooh, yeah, no, that's even better than like a lot of the art books I've seen recently. Like I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, and whenever they do art book stuff, I'm always like, okay, yeah, give me the concept art. And apparently, like the Dread book has like tons of concept art.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it is.
And that sounds great. So yeah, there's a couple special editions where like after the fact it would be nice to get, especially when it's like a new IP. And they're doing like the special edition, like Death Stranding. It's like they had like a super edition. It's like, okay, like this is completely unproven. Why would you like? It's not even an entry in a long running series. And I'm throwing no shade at the game or Kojima for that. I'm saying in general, any first iteration of a series, I'm like, what are you doing? What like? I get it. It's because of the Kojima hype, but it's still seems
part of the reason
silly.
I didn't jump on the Soul Hackers 2 one that I thought looked it actually was a pretty lame special edition, but it was
Mm.
like, oh, special edition. I almost got caught in the hype, and then
Mhm.
I like went back to earth and was like, no, this is stupid. Especially because I wanted a digital copy of the game anyway, and most of the time the special editions don't come with a digital copy; they come with a disc, which is understandable because probably the people who are buying those were physical collectors. But I didn't want that.
Mhm. Um, well, that's all great. So, for me, we basically agree on this now. We've after talking through it for a bunch, we basically agree like a shorter marketing cycle is preferred. We like the game to be very close to coming out. That way, also the release date's more likely to be real. Seeing gameplay right away is the optimal. Like Paper Mario and the Origami King had a very similar marketing cycle. That game was like announced, shown off, and released within about 6 to 7 months. Dread, like you said, also perfect. There's very few games that I would say where the long hype cycle is justified. Um, I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan as well, so like Kingdom Hearts 3's hype cycle was obnoxious. But then again, I was also super into Nintendo's hype cycle for Smash Brothers back on Wii, Smash Brothers Brawl, and how they like showed off one new piece of news every day, and that was both cool and I guess in hindsight it got a bit obnoxious because it's like I really only cared about the characters, like seeing what items came out and stuff, and only seeing like little screenshots. And they did a similar thing for Smash Ultimate for a bit, like showing off some information like every week. Um, but yeah, I guess there's no for me there's no such thing as too much information. It's more about too little, and I think like yeah, I want a gameplay trailer. I want to see what I'm supposed to be getting excited about. CG isn't really there, um, and when games are like super far out into like 20, more than 2 years out, I'm like, why are you even showing this off? And I think we've talked about it a little bit on previous episodes how like it's more of a marketing tactic for them, is like they're trying to get investors, they may be trying to recruit for a team. And I feel like, okay, if you're going to do that, do it like privately or in like small press releases, but like making a huge media splash like into the public, it's like, who's that really benefiting? And there's so many games and stuff out there, I think like it makes too much noise and we stop being able to pay attention to like new stuff that's coming out, and it drowns out because then people, especially like the general gaming audience, like gets hooked on just several big titles to begin with. And of course, like um there'll always be a fickle audience for taste and stuff. Like you and me, we're both super hyped for Stray, and there's probably, if we asked on the street like, "Yo, are you excited for that Stray game?" and people will go, "No, what is that? What is it? I don't even know. Why should I care?" And you're like, "You play as a cat," and I'm sure there's a fair amount of people that might go, "Oh, that sounds cool," and then there's a whole bunch of people
My
like,
sister's
"What?"
actually interested in that, and she's not really a big gamer, but she likes the idea that it's like, well, we don't know yet, but it
Yeah.
looks like it's not too like challenging. It looks like you just press buttons and the cat jumps where you press the button. Like it doesn't look like it's like a serious platformer. Like she's not really into games where you actually have to like overcome challenge, but we'll see what this is. But she's potentially interested in that.
Right. And that's the thing. There's games like that where it's kind of outside the box and it might appeal to some of the more casual fans just because it's something unique that they haven't seen before, or it's like, that appeals to them. Like it's a cat. You get to play as a cat. That's pretty dope. Untitled Goose Game. That's another thing that's like that blew up as well. That's like, oh, look, you get to play as a goose that annoys people, and that there's like little puzzles and challenges to that. It's like and now some of those indie games get lucky and they get like pushed hard and shown off, and like the major publishers will back them and show them off. And there's a bunch of other little indie titles that just kind of get thrown in montages and people easily forget about them. So yeah, if the gaming industry just took more time and let itself be paced out with games, I think like everyone would benefit from it because there really is no shortage of games. Like I know you complain about there's nothing to be excited for. I hated this presentation. We've had those chats before, and we've called each other's games trash and stuff that we're excited for. But honestly, we live in a time where if we want to find something to play, it's easy. You can just go on Game Pass, or you can go on GameFly, or you can download a demo right now on your console or
Or
PC
go
of
on a
choice.
sale, and there's probably
So,
like hundreds of games that are awesome that you realized you missed that you could probably get for
right.
like $5 or $10.
Yeah.
Like, I was playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. I'm like, how did this whole series go under my radar? This is awesome. So I just bought Yakuza Zero for like $5, and there's a whole other 7 games that I could be playing.
Yeah.
So like I nobody who has been gaming for 30 years, which I haven't, but I feel like if you really broaden your horizons, they could go a whole year without releasing games and you'd still be able to find plenty of stuff to play.
Yeah. Now, to get into the meat of the conversation here, where we kind of disagreed, and it's the reason we committed to doing this topic as like our E3 topic was, or not E3 topic for this year, was Street Fighter 6 and its latest big gameplay debut announcement. And what followed after was the leak of the entire, or supposedly the entire starting roster, possibly the starting roster plus DLC. It's not 100% clear, but for the news for people is that Street Fighter 6 got shown off. At the original announcement and confirmation of Street Fighter 6 coming out, they only showed off that Ryu, classic standby Shoto, will be there, and then new protagonist Luke, who debuted actually in Street Fighter V as the final DLC character, but was confirmed to be like he's the main character of Street Fighter 6, was shown off, and the new art style was kind of shown off. No real gameplay, just kind of some in-engine test footage of them like squaring off. Teased. It was a teaser. Then the gameplay got shown off this month for the first time, and we also saw newcomer Jamie and returning favorite and mainstay girl of the series, Chun-Li, in the new art style. So that was the trailer, and it showed off like teased off some of like the new single player mode that's coming, possibly what the online mode lobby is going to look like. And then sprinkled throughout was also in that trailer, it seemed like there were hints in the background of some other characters that might be coming, posters of some yet unannounced new fighters, and even some old fighters tucked away when people like did screenshots and zoomed in and cleaned some stuff up. So, but then shortly after that announcement, I think with just in hours of that, online hit like pretty much near finalized versions of concept art of all the roster. And people can go look that up. The image is now well circulated, and it's already a couple weeks old. So if you are curious about what Street Fighter 6's roster wants to look like. Now, it was supposedly leaked. Some people have conspiracy theories about whether or not companies themselves leak out their own information on purpose in order to test out and get like a reaction without committing to it being a full announcement. I'm sure that happens sometimes, but it's hard to tell when it is legit versus when someone is legitimately leaking it and the company did not intend for the information to get out, and if a company is like playing this weird hype cycle game, which is what we're getting into. So I was talking to you about that, and we were talking about leaks, and I thought, I'm like, this is really cool. All the characters are out, or all the characters are seen, and now people are going to be able to, are getting excited because all these designs look cool. The new characters look interesting. Now we need to see what they play like and what their moveset's going to be like and what the returning characters will also like play like. So that's what we can be excited about before. Like, I didn't think any of the hype went away. And actually, what seemed to have happened is a lot of people responded very positively to the new characters' designs and updated looks. So Capcom decided to even acknowledge that the leaks were out. And they're like, oh, yeah, people got to see something that before it was ready, or that that shouldn't have been seen just yet. And they acknowledged it because there was such a huge positive response to those designs. And so that's where like I thought, oh yeah, the leaks are great. Like, I want the information now. Why are you withholding this from me? Like, there shouldn't be any reason to do this. But Ed, you had your own opinion on leaks, so go ahead and verbalize for us how you felt. about how you feel about
Well,
leaks.
those kind of leaks are maybe okay because at least they like have some credibility to them. Like it would be surprising if a leaker, like a fake leaker, went to the effort of like mocking up all this like concept art and making up all these character lists just to like that. I guess I can like concede that that is kind of nice. Just if you're, but I also think that why do you need to know everything right away? I think it would be nice if like there's so much noise and there's a lot of like there's a lot of rumors that never pan out to where I find it kind of annoying where like all these supposedly credible leakers like they're half the time it just seems like they're just making stuff up. Maybe they heard something, but who did they hear it from? And some of the stuff I'd say most of it doesn't seem to pan out. um like I don't even know if you could call some of these announcements leaks. A lot of them are just like rumors, and they don't have anything behind them. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but there was some leaked screenshots of what was supposed to be the next actual Fire Emblem game.
Oh, I heard
Did I
about that.
mention this?
No,
Yeah,
we didn't talk
so
about it yet, but I was aware of that the new one is, and you mentioned like there's supposed to be. I want the new Fire Emblem game, but no, I
yeah,
didn't see the
I wanted
screenshots.
yeah. So
I'll look
the
them up.
screenshots look like they had a picture of the protagonist from and it was of their hair, and it looked like it was this like hair that was like down to their knees, and one half side was red, one half side was blue, and people were like, this looks like they took the Joy Cons and turned them into a Fire Emblem character. And people were joking that like, oh well, what if it like matches your Joy Cons so you could like mix and match and change the color of the hair. Obviously, that's a joke, but like it looks so bad that I I almost feel like it's real because it looked too bad to be a fake leak. You did you look it up?
The back of the head
I
I'm seeing right now.
yeah, yeah. Just no, but it's like I stuff like that is so ridiculous to me because it's like there's no idea whether it's real. Like it could be credible, but it could just be made up. And then people are just speculating and like I guess maybe like you say, part of it is the fault of the publishers. Like if they would just be more timely in their announcements, there would be fewer opportunities for these leaks.
Oh,
And
I see the full
they
character.
always want to be really tight-lipped and control everything, but stuff gets out. I just I don't like the well, maybe it is real, maybe it isn't. Like I'd rather just have it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where I think it's just a slight difference in perspective, because the leaking information is a symptom of the hype cycle and kind of like a unintended consequence of these marketing plans where the companies want to keep things so under wraps and want to just trickle out information in a very specific, deliberate way, so they can tease people along and keep them interested all the way until the release. And I feel like we've seen games come out with like our optimal marketing cycles, and then we've seen games where they have these super long, protracted ones, and I just don't see much of a difference. Like, or I would say I'd say the longer hype cycles are typically a problem because you're more likely to get burnt out on the hype waiting for a game to come out because then people ask year after year, and then people get like anxious and agitated. Now, I will say people also need to have some restraint and perspective themselves, so it's not all on developers for like and publishers to like take responsibility for people just getting rude and agitated because it takes too long. But they certainly could do better about it by being like, we're not going to, by not talking about these things or not giving announcements and information, um and things like change and whatnot. So and like you were even saying, even if a game is like 12 months away, a lot can change in 12 months. But that's why I think like we both agree Um, games shouldn't be announced that aren't like closer to release and finalization because they're so far out in game development, so in um complicated that if it's not ready to go, then it's possible that that game might even just get canceled because of, it's not ready, or it's it has to change so much. There's the infamous example of Ubisoft, their marketing, where they like marketed Watch Dogs the first time, and they had this like PC build vertical slice of the games, of the one of the missions, that it didn't end up being much like that in the final game. It didn't look that way. A lot of the physics were different, the lighting was different, and so on. And I know we're talking a generation away at this point, but it's like that left a lasting impression of like, you can't just be showing people stuff that's not real, that's not going to be representative of the final product. That we can go even further back to like the Killzone 2 original PS3 debut trailer that said it was real in-game footage. More recently, what was it? There was another, Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's like hype cycle and showing off their gameplay demonstrations and how much that game changed and how many features ended up getting cut, and then it coming out as a buggy mess. Couldn't even play on the previous gen consoles. The PC version, of course, was like functional but also still very rough. It's like these companies get so obsessed with like money and financial returns that they don't really take the time to figure it out. Now there's management stuff as well, like in terms of putting the game to a certain scope. So I'm not trying to say like any of this is really simple, but I think a lot of the stuff is obvious. And I think there's a difference between that. So yeah, like you were talking about credibility of leaks, and of course, like that's the thing. If these companies were actually telling us information or being like, hey, this is true, this is not, or hey, like stuff's in flux, I think even just coming out and admitting like, yeah, information got out, it's not ready, we're changing things, or it's going to be announced soon or late in a later time. Like it'd be better if they just kind of admitted stuff. There could be other deals, and I think that's just part of the industry that I think needs to change. Is there's all these weird deals that go on in the background. It's like, why are you making these weird deals? We know it's money, but like, why are you making it so frustrating for your fans to like your product? And it's because a lot of people will just at the end of the day say whatever and buy the thing.
Well, even official word from companies can be kind of unsatisfying. Like, didn't Miyamoto back in like the Wii U days famously say that, oh yeah, Pikmin 4 is so close to being finished, and like we're never gonna get Pikmin 4. Well, maybe we will, but like sometimes they just say stuff off the cuff or even officially that just like never pans out, and then like nobody's happy. So it's like it's certainly an art of managing fans' expectations.
Well, that comes out to I who knows what he actually meant, and some stuff gets lost in translation. Like that makes sense. Like Miyamoto, what you're saying for what he said also kind of lines up with like Norman Reedus's quote recently about possibly Death Stranding 2.
I was thinking the same example that yeah.
And apparently there's a leaker out talking about whatever the next Kojima game is. Heard the name. Overdose. Yeah. We heard it on the Sacred Symbols podcast, them talking about that information. So apparently someone got like a trailer that'll be shown, which to me that totally lines up that it's going to be another trailer. And Kojima's just going to kind of show off like a high art concept tease of whatever his next game is. He's already announced he's got a project in works with Xbox. So I think like, and there's a couple different levels to that. It's like one thing of saying like, hey, we're partnering with this company to make a new game, and I'm like, fine, whatever, it's inoffensive. That kind of stuff's inoffensive because it's like, you're not trying to make me believe in a product that doesn't exist. You're just announcing, hey, we're going to do something here, which fine, whatever. It's more like even the first Death Stranding trailer, I would say like, oh, what did you think of the Death Stranding hype cycle? How did that pan out for you? Because we both went through that, and this is a game we both had interest in, and we've both ended up like playing and completing. So like, how did you feel about the way Death Stranding's like hype cycle went.
I think I may have mentioned it, but I didn't follow the hype cycle at all. I think like the first time I really started to pay attention to Death Stranding was when I saw some of the ads like in the last month before release.
Mhm.
And I'm like, this looks wild. What is this? And I ended up just buying it at release, and I didn't know anything about it, to be honest. So like I completely missed the entire hype cycle for Death Stranding. And that's part of the reason I've thought like, maybe being so uh clued into all this stuff, to all these releases, is not doing me any favors, because like some of the games that I really have gotten the most out of, um like Fire Emblem Three Houses was another one of those where I really only heard about it in the last few months before release, and I really enjoyed something just coming out of left field for me and not having this like build up of months or years. So um I don't know. I can't really comment on
Okay.
the Death Stranding hype cycle because I wasn't a part of it. Um but at this point, having played that, and some my friend and I played a few other Kojima games, some older ones in the past year or so. We played Snatcher and Police Knots.
Hmm.
So I don't know if anyone knows anything about those, but they're basically visual novels, and they're like weird sci-fi Kojima weirdness, and I really like them. So like I've played some of the Metal Gear Solid games in the past. I want to actually go through and give them a fair shake, the whole series, but like I don't know when that's going to happen. But I'm definitely on board of like hearing that he's working on an Xbox game. I'm like, all right, that was enough to get me excited. So now I'm like firmly part of the Kojima hype cycle, but I wasn't with Death Stranding.
Okay. Did you go back and by chance look at any of like those original preview trailers that came out?
No, I didn't. I seem to remember reading people saying that like everyone had seen some of the gameplay that he showed, and they were like, there's no way this is the final game. There's got to be some twist. It can't just be walking and delivering packages. And like, well, it was walking and delivering packages. Like it turns out what he showed was not all that far from the truth.
Go go check out the like look at the trailers in release order and take notice of when each trailer was like debuted, and then come back to me, because it was like 2 years before we saw gameplay, or at least it felt like it. It was probably more like a year. But
Oh, really?
like,
Okay.
and then when we actually saw footage that looked basically like in-game gameplay, it was not even like 10 seconds of footage of like, oh, this is what, like, no one had any idea what genre the game was when the first trailer came out. And
It's a Strand type game.
and it was just a CG trailer, but it was so wacky, and like we knew it was Kojima, so everyone was kind of on board, because like no one had seen visuals like this, and everyone was like, what is this? Like, what is this gonna be? And I can say, like, I'm pretty much in, but I need to know what genre this game is. And so when the gameplay trailer, or the first trailer with some gameplay in it that I could confidently be like, oh, okay, and I realized it was gonna be like a third person action game of some sort, I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm definitely in. Like, I will play whatever wackiness this is, because I can deal with that style of at least it's like third person action. Whatever else is on top of it, I'll figure it out and I'll find out. You could also see a little bit of shooting, so I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird, but all right, fine, whatever. Or it didn't. It wasn't giving me that vibe. Based on all the story element stuff that they were showing off. So yeah. Oh, another hype cycle I can say, because this recently completed, was the hype cycle for TMNT Shredder's Revenge, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which is an homage to the classic arcade games of the previous Konami Ninja Turtles games. And so that one, well, the first way they debuted it was insane, because they just put out a video that was a new rendition of the animated like opening. Not one for one and by any means. They changed a lot of scenes, but it was like very much in the spirit of that cartoon TV intro with a new version of the exact song. And it was just like, as a fan of the property, I was just losing my mind because I'm like, they're making a new Turtles game and like they get it, like to put in the effort to have this animated video happening. And I think they showed off a little bit of the sprite work with some screenshots, and it just is like, you can just feel the love. And then they kind of teased it out little bits as they showed like more of the gameplay, unfinished HUD, the turtles. They showed off like the turtles are all gonna have different run cycles and stuff like that. Like we're really putting in the effort to make things like stylized. And then they did these little or not little leaks, but little drops of Splinter's playable, or no, April O'Neil's playable, which everyone were like, oh, that's crazy. Then Splinter's playable. Oh, that makes total sense. And everyone's like, where's Casey Jones? Is he going to be like in here? Is Casey? And then it was not until earlier this month that they like did their final announcement where they're like, Casey Jones is going to be playable. 6-player co-op. Like we all knew there was going to have 4-player co-op, but they like 6-player online, offline, mix and match game multiplayer. And the big drop, then the release date drop. And it was coming out in a week. And it's like, what? Now it's an indie project. It's $25. It's currently on sale. The sale might be over, but there was like a 10% launch sale, I think, on most platforms. It came out on everything, and it's available on Game Pass. So that was like a crazy hype cycle. It did take like, I think it was over the course of a year. We got like drip fed a little bit of information here and there and little bits, but like just enough to be like, oh, we know what this game is, so it can be exciting. And then a huge explosion of information at the end that then led to like, yep, it's out next week. It's ready. It's going to be there. So that ended up being a really great hype cycle as well. Maybe a little bit protracted. I guess I would have liked a little bit more at the start, but and they didn't even, I don't remember if they even promised 2022 up until really late. So that's another thing where like, if you're going to show me something and you're not going to commit to at least some sort of release range, like it makes me even more skeptical. I'm like, is this real? There's also plenty of like tech demo style games that look like these new visual masterpieces. This usually happens like with every new generation. I think it's a little more prevalent with this generation because graphics have come along so far. But it's like vaporware games where it's like these like Chinese developed high quality looking action games.
Black Myth Wukong or whatever.
Yeah, like that one.
Yeah.
Or what's that one that was shown off in PlayStation that was not Bayonetta? That's like still.
Yeah, like the Korean one.
Yeah.
What was that called?
There's also that Final Fantasy inspired action game, that a Devil May Cry style action game that was like being made by one dude, and then Sony picked them up, or Square Enix picked them up, or something like that to finish the game. And we still haven't seen anything else about it. So it's like, are these games really real? Even when they have like these gameplay reveal long trailers, like the not Bayonetta one hasn't had another trailer yet. It had a but it did have a lot of gameplay in its first debut trailer. But like that Final Fantasy inspired one, there's like a 8-minute video out there of actual like in-game footage, and I'm just like, I still don't believe this is coming out. And then the Wukong one is same thing. It's like, it looks an engine, there's a HUD, and he's fighting a dragon, and I was like, I don't know. Like, is this just all CG and pretend? Like, I don't want it.
That was one where I think the developer specifically said it was to like attract staff, which I guess a lot of them say that. But that one, I think they were even saying like, what we shown, it really wasn't up to our standards, but we needed to attract staff. And like people were thinking like, what do you mean it wasn't up to your standards? This thing looks crazy. But like, I don't know if that's real. Probably not. But
yeah, and that hurts more when I don't know, because if I like the look of something, and then you can't tell me when it's coming out, or that it's like even can't really confirm it's real, it just deflates me now, because I'm so I think my major perspective change, and I probably told this story before as well, was Destiny 1. I was very excited for Destiny 1 at first because I loved Borderlands, and this just seemed like a newer, kind of more mature, less campy Borderlands style multiplayer shooter that I hoped was going to be very plot focused, drop in, drop out co-op with my friends in this like cool sci-fi world. And then it turned out to be this weird like semi MMO. And yes, granted, Destiny 2 has changed a lot of things. It's gone free to play. It's improved in multiple ways, but it committed more um to the online like service model than Borderlands itself does. Like Borderlands 2 and 3 both are like these base games that you can play drop in drop out co-op with your friends for 4 players, and then they did these big expansions where each one was a new campaign and you get to play through them, and they added several hours to gameplay plus new weapons and updates. And then even Borderlands 3, which struggled a lot, it was basically um, it wasn't as grand as Cyberpunk, but it certainly like dropped in hot, like a lot of bugs, a lot of issues and stuff. And then they fixed it over time, balanced it, made a lot of changes. And then as they updated as they dropped the DLC campaigns, they did a bunch of other tweaks and events and things like that. So they traded it a lot like a service game, but the core game was always like an actual video game or like a non-service video game where it felt very much more complete, just like, buggy kind of early release. And so ever since spending the money playing that and just being super disappointed with vanilla Destiny 1, I'm like, because I took trust into the marketing that, oh, they're just being very cautious because the story's really important, really cool, so they're trying to keep it very like downplay it, and like they're hiding it so that way you don't see it, so that way they don't give anything away, and it's just kind of the gameplay is going to be like this and the powers are going to be like that. And that's not what it was. Like they're like, the story's not ready. We're going to sell you like $40 expansions every single time, and I'm just like, I'm out. I put my like 25 hours into vanilla 1, beat the campaign, and said like, I don't know, like, you didn't give me what I wanted, you didn't do it right, I can't support this anymore. And I'm just super disappointed. Ever since then, I've been like, yep, I should have seen the signs. And now I'm super skeptical of most of marketing. So that's where I'm like, let's do shorter hype cycles, have the game come out, let's do this. But let's yeah, there's some other examples here. But Ed, did you have any other examples of like parts of marketing you did or didn't like, or anything?
I think I was mentioning it before we started recording, but I was way into the Shin Megami Tensei 5 marketing cycle. I pre-ordered the special edition, and uh, I was kind of keeping up with it, but they were putting out literally every day a new video about one of the demons that they were going to include in their roster. And it was kind of funny because a lot of people seem to be getting tired of it. Like, I would always see, like, every day without fail, someone would post on the Nintendo Switch subreddit, "Hey, new video for this game," and there'd be two comments that were always there. There was one like, "Oh, this is awesome," and then when someone's like, "Another video for Shin Megami Tensei 5, why do you keep posting this crap?" And then it's like, "Oh, well, if you don't like it, don't look at it." So like, I I I I I think I kind of agree that like a video every day is just ridiculous. I mean, how much you know it's gonna have demons? They all have demons. All those the games in that category have demons. So it's like, what are you showing that's new? But I guess they just wanted to keep people engaged. So I don't think I like that approach where it's just like information overload, especially if it's that frequent. Maybe if they had less frequent videos that were a little longer, yeah, and that's you could kind of do that because all the videos for demons were not they were in Japanese, and then I think there was a channel on YouTube that was like collecting every 10 videos. They would put them all together and translate the actual Japanese audio into English subtitles. So it's like if you wanted to, you could just watch it every 10 days, which I feel like that's what the official channel should have done. Like, why would they need to put out like a 50-second video every day? That to me seems really silly. So it's like, and they've already kind of done that with Soul Hackers too. There have been a lot of videos out, not as frequent, but like a lot of ones with new gameplay, a lot of ones with story details, and like I don't really like when it's just like really saturated coverage. I think
Mm,
it's better if they are a little more, if they show a little more restraint in how they market a game.
mhm. Um, yeah, I guess I wouldn't say I'm too much in the there's there isn't really too much information I can get other than like straight up spoilers. Now, everyone's got their own limits when it comes to spoilers. As we've said, there's some people who are super strict and don't really want to know anything other than the title and like the basic pitch. And then they're like, okay, let me wait and see what that game is like. I don't know understand exactly what people's reason is for that, other than they just want the full discovery. But I feel like it's like with those people, they're asking for too little, because I'm like, you have no idea like how this game's going to function or work, and it's like you're really going in very uninformed. Are you just that not worried about risk, or you don't care about wasting your money on something that sounds interesting but might not quite be what you want, or has this feature that if you would have just watched a trailer you would have been like, nah, that's not for me. You know what? Like, it's weird when people want too little information, in my opinion, or very, I should say, not too little, but want very little information. And I'm somewhere like in between, leaning towards like, I want to know what the mechanics are. I want to know what the basic premise is. I want to see what the gameplay's like. I want to know who these characters are and what's like the premise and stuff. I don't want like end game spoilers and mid game spoilers. I like things out of context. You can show me plenty of stuff out of context. Um, but I'm definitely of more of a more is better information wise. And I've responded really well to, like I said, the Smash Brothers Brawl hype cycle. Um, Resident Evil, I wanted to bring this up, like demos and stuff like that are pretty good, and we're seeing
I was thinking demos too. I was just thinking like a lot of games recently that I have been interested have had demos, particularly when the progress carries over to the main
yeah,
game. That's like one of the best thing they can do, at least for me, with marketing. Although they do risk losing some people,
of
but
course.
I still think like, wouldn't you as a company want people who buy your game to actually enjoy it? Like, I guess you want to make money, but do you want to make money by like fooling people into buying a game they're not going to like? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think like for a lot of Square Enix's faults, especially of late with their like NFT and selling off IDOS and stuff like that, that's the one thing they've actually been doing quite well, is like doing those demos. Also doing demos, and I think Koei Tecmo like started this trend, and they've been working more closely with Koei Tecmo. Was like, because Koei Tecmo did this with Neo 1, where they're like, we're gonna do a beta, and then we're gonna play it, send us your feedback. We're gonna work some stuff out. Then they did a second beta with feedback implemented, took more people played, did another survey, took more stuff in. Neo 1 was then very well received largely. Neo 2 came out, was even better, and I think it did the same thing with some betas, active development betas, uh, or active development open betas, as I would phrase it, to collect feedback and do that. They did it with Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin as well, where they did two open betas for public testing and implementing feedback. It still came out kind of rough from what I understand. I'm not talking story wise, but even just like technical performance wise, which I don't know. I don't get why that's weird. But Square Enix, like Triangle Strategy, they did it. They took feedback for that one pre-release, and then I don't think Neo of the World
Bravely Default too.
Bravely Default 2, they did it as well. Neo the World Ends With You, they put out the demo that had progress carryover, but I don't think they did any sort of open beta feedback for that one. That was kind of more like demo's coming out, try it out, see if you like it, and hopefully you buy it and your progress is already there if you want to keep going. and it was like the first like 2 to 3 hours of the game. So that was like pretty rad. Um,
They put
so
a short demo for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I played that demo.
yes,
It
they also
didn't carry over, but it was short.
yep.
And they also did one for Dragon Quest 11S, like the the updated release of Dragon
Really?
Quest
Oh, I haven't
11.
heard about that one.
Yeah, and that one was like almost a 10-hour demo. Like you could play that for like 8 to 10 hours and then continue the game once you bought it. Like that was a huge demo.
Final Fantasy 15, they did like 2 or 3 demos for that game. And it was funny because they actually made them like one of the demos was kind of like a sampling of the open world in like a very contained section with a like side quest in it. That was pretty cool. And then they did another technical demo that showed off like the magic system and things like that. And that made me really worried. But it was a unique portion of the game, kind of recycling a bunch of assets, which was pretty neat. But they were also taking feedback on that stuff too. So like Square Enix is actually for everything, for all the messed up stuff they do and for all the poor management they have, that at least is not something. That's the one progressive thing that they've been doing is demos to get feedback, to get people's reactions. On the flip side, there's Capcom who just like can't seem, or I don't know, they love hate their Resident Evil fans because they did those stupid timed access demos where they're like, we're just gonna put out a bit for you for like, okay, here's Friday and Saturday. You can play the game for 30 minutes between these 2 hours. You got to download it, and if you don't play it, okay, they did it fine for 7. Although they ended up doing 2 demos for 7. They did like the demo which was like a sample of the game and didn't have as much gameplay in it. It was more of like a walking sim. I think there might have been a little shooting towards the end. I forget if the original demo had any shooting at all. But then they did an updated version of the demo. Then they did a second update for the demo, I think, that actually added more gameplay and they like restructured a bunch of stuff. And it was just like, so Sevens was really neat. And then they had a thing that like carried over into the main game. It ended up being very insignificant, but it was still really cool. And then for Resident Evil Remake 2 and 3, they did those like weird time demos. Like you can only explore this for like up to an hour and you can only play through it as many times that it would take like 30 minutes, or like you get 30 minutes and then if you either spend it or beat it, it's done. And then you don't get to play it again. And I'm like, what? Why are you doing this? Just let us play the demo as many times as we want. Let us explore. Let us like enjoy it, you know? And I get it's like a weird like contradictory hype cycle where it annoys me then because I'm like, I can just play the demo if I want it once and I'm done, I'm happy. And if I want to play it like 4 or 5 times because I'm super excited, like best example for at least for me, Resident Evil 4 back on GameCube. You could pre-order a demo disc back at GameStop way back when. I got it and I pre-ordered it and I had that demo disc and I played it. I kid you not. Every day from the day I got it till the day the actual Resident Evil 4 game came out. And I would sometimes play it multiple times in a day and just ran through that mission, enjoyed it, got the main game, and loved the game as is. Like that demo didn't do anything except keep me ready for it. And I was so excited. And there was a lot of changes between the demo and the final game. But still, like it doesn't kill hype. For some people it might, but that's like up to them. That's just a natural process. You can't force people in or out because every decision you make is going to resonate with people differently. So there might be some people that are craving the game that have will play the demo once or will get that and then they'll be like, oh, I'm dying to play the final thing. But for everyone else,
I remember I got the original God of War demo on PlayStation 2 with like I think it was from like Official PlayStation Magazine. It came on one of those demo discs. I played that demo, like you said, so many times. It was until I finally got the game. And, you know, I played every game that came out in that series up until the recent one in 2018. That one just didn't do it for me. It didn't remind me of what I liked of the games, but like for the longest time I played every God of War game. Like it seems like you get so much goodwill out of putting a good demo, and like you said, like it leaves you wanting more until you can get the full game. It seems dumb to put these arbitrary restrictions on it. But
So
yeah, I have really fond memories of that demo when
yeah,
I was
so
a teenager.
I want to make sure I'm touching both sides of this. Um, and Capcom did also pull that shenanigans with the Resident Evil 8 demos. At least luckily there was loopholes where if you create like alternate accounts or like if you own multiple platforms, you can easily go play the demos multiple times that way. But then on the other hand, they've been much better about the demos for Monster Hunter. So I think like Monster Hunter World had a demo, and I know Monster Hunter Rise had some demos. And those ones didn't have any wacky stuff to them. It was just you're going to play it, it's pre-built stuff, go in, do a few fights, see what the game feels like. And it was just like so it's like on one hand they've got the Resident Evil team doing this stupid stuff with their demos. And then you've got the Monster Hunter team that like is doing it completely right and people are super hyped and whatnot. And I guess, you know, the Resident Evil games still sell well. You know, 7, 8, Remake 1, Remake 2 have all sold pretty well and drummed up a good amount of hype. I'm super excited for the Resident Evil 8 update. I'm gonna play that game like 2 or 3 more times with the third person mode. And then of course the story expansion DLC. I'm super pumped. I can't believe they're doing a third person mode. I'm so happy. The only other thing that could have hyped me up more was if they actually did like official randomizer mode for the campaign where like they moved around enemies and weapons. And I just oh man. Because like I can play those games like infinitely as long as they just like start changing stuff up. And there's a good randomizer now for Resident Evil 4 on PC. So I was like I saw some footage of that from a streamer and I'm like, I think I want to like boot that up again at some point. But for right now, I think I'm gonna wait because there's a ton of stuff coming up to play. So I don't necessarily want to dip back in, but it's like, dude, I was screaming when I saw third person mode. I'm like, are you kidding me? I was just losing my mind. I couldn't believe it was real. I always like joke that they should just do a third person mode. They just do a third person. I mean, the game should just been third person, but now they're actually officially doing it. Ooh. Oh man, that's that for me was a personal like huge win. Like TMNT was a huge win. That game's great. Oh, and then just for a game that I'm coming out on the other end of the hype cycle very soon, is a fighting game. So I know Ed is not a huge fighting game fan. Some of our listeners do or don't care. I would say for anyone, this is a brand new IP coming into the fighting games. It's from an existing like Korean only arcade PC based like brawler RPG brawler style game, but like they're doing a fighting game. Arc System Works is publishing it, and they're the ones who do Guilty Gear and did Dragon Ball Fighters, so you can see where the quality comes from. And then they're teamed up with Aiding, who are the team that was responsible for developing Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So they have a good pedigree. They like teased the game really early, so all we got to see was like some character designs. And then we're like, what is this? What like they kind of started out with me like, why should I care? And then they showed off some more trailers. And ArcSys has this new style of doing these really short, like less than a minute teaser trailers that like just show you the barest amount of information for you to get hyped, and you just always want more. But it's like an annoying way. It doesn't go with it doesn't work in the same way of like, oh, I walk away going, oh my god, I can't wait to play this. It's like I need to see more because I saw just a little bit. I'm like, how does any of this work? But then they did the 2 open betas, which were great for online. And I've played the first open beta, and I fell in love with that game. It feels so good to play. I couldn't really tell if there was much of a difference in the second one. Their lobbies are crap. Like the way they do their lobby system's dumb, and I'm not here to get into that. But the game is coming out next Tuesday, so by the time you guys hear this episode, I will own it on Steam and probably sunk a ton of time into it because what I play from the beta, like I'm craving that game. Like I love fighting games. I finally bought Guilty Gear Strive because they're gonna do crossplay, and season 1 is already complete of DLC, so there was a good Steam sale. So I've been kind of biding my time with that. But yeah, DNF Duel is about to be out, and they've just finally like shown off all their trailers for all their characters, and it's going to be a base roster of 16, which is fine. It's good enough. Everyone looks fun. Most of the characters I think I'm going to play and enjoy. I've got a couple of my favorites there, but like yeah, I'm super excited because I got my hands on the game a couple times. Like I hated not being able to spend more time with the beta, and I hated not having like a demo. I could just keep like getting a little bit of practice in and start like working away at it. But yeah, I'm super excited, and I'm hoping that there will be like a slightly early Steam release on Monday. But yeah, it's Tuesday. So yeah, a good hype cycle and a good game like can really do a lot. You know, gameplay I think is the king, and if your game is not good, then there's that. And I think you're more likely to get people down the line to play the game if there's a easy way for them to try it, because it takes a lot of investment to get into games sometimes, and that's also something designers have to figure out and see how they want to manage that. Like what was it? Oh, PlayStation, the new PlayStation Plus tiers are out, and I think it's like with is it only the third tier you can do the trials, right?
Yeah, premium,
Yeah.
the
Um
highest tier.
yeah, so there's that, and they're requiring it for games that cost $35 or more.
Well, maybe at some point. It doesn't seem like they're enforcing that yet because it really only has a few select games. But
Probably for like new
maybe like
games.
maybe after a certain date they will require that. But
Yeah.
I think that was just rumored. I don't know if they officially announced that as being the policy.
Oh, we'll have to double check that. But the that kind of policy, I don't like. It's probably like when they announced before with the PlayStation 4 Pro, they're like games published from here and after this date have to be compatible with like the new friends list and the name changing stuff and features. So I could imagine like it's like, oh yeah, like this is not retroactive. This is like proactive going into the future. So yeah, I think games having try like I've advocated on this podcast a bunch, like try before you buy, one way or another. Or to your point, Ed, like you can always get it on a steep sale if you're not really sure. That way, you can figure out whether or not you really want to sink your teeth into it and walk away. Um,
I've done that for a lot of games where I have gotten into it on a sale, and as I came back for a sequel or a later game, I would be more likely to buy it on release.
yeah. The funny thing is too, like with leaks and things like that, I was just thinking about when you were talking about some leaks can be unsubstantiated or inaccurate and things. Think about with Smash Ultimate, how often Sora was mentioned as like leaks, or it
Oh
was
yeah.
mentioned part of leaks, and they're like Sora's coming, and nobody believed it. Nobody thought, and then a bunch of other stories came out that just made sense. Like, no, this will never happen. This can't happen. And then, what happened was like I think it was like a day or two before the presentation, it was leaked that like, yeah, it's gonna be Sora. Like, and like everyone was like, no, it's not gonna be Sora. Like, where are these like crazy people coming from? It couldn't be Sora, it never would be. We got Sephiroth, we have Cloud, we have Dragon Quest Hero. It's not happening. Like, I don't get it. And I was definitely in the camp of like, it's never gonna be Sora. And then when it was flippin' Sora, I was like, what? Wait, what? Because I had convinced myself it would just never happen. And I wasn't necessarily like excited. I was like in shock. I was just like, huh? But I guess those leaks were all true. It's just like,
But
yeah.
were they really leaks, or was it just people speculating? Oh, it's the last character. It's got to be Sora. Like a leak has to have a source. But did these people like making these claims have any real source, or were they just like, oh, it's gonna be Sora? I know it. This is the last one, and they're just like hyping people up to be, either satisfied when it turns out to be Sora, or disappointed when it isn't. Like I have a really hard time calling a lot of these rumors actual leaks, because the leaks got to be from, like, a leak has a source, and I don't think a lot of these people have real sources.
Oh yeah, and but that's also the nature of it, is because these sources can't be discovered. If they get discovered, they're going to get into trouble. So they have to be anonymous, and they have to be vetted by a third party of some sort that then vouches for the legitimacy of it. And some of this stuff, these leaks can come from various avenues. Like, it could be earlier marketing plans that they just got a hold of. It could be like, this is kind of a safe time where no one's really gonna look at this or pay attention to it if it comes out. And so there's stuff like the Fire Emblem thing looks really legit because like you can look and you can kind of see what a screenshot looks like that, and people will go out and be like, "Oh, I've seen this model here, there, the other thing, and these designs are very familiar." Like people are really good at like picking stuff out. For Smash Ultimate, I think like pre-release of Smash Ultimate, one of the best leaks was like Ken is going to be in the starting roster, and people like what? And like one screenshot showed up of like in-game Ken model with against some other people, and it was like, oh, this actually looks pretty legit. And then there were some other like fake screenshots for some other characters that like if you like take some time to look at it, you can really see like, yeah, that's like artwork taken from this, or it's slightly modified, or someone like did stuff. So like there's a lot of people trying to debunk these things now, and I think it's getting better at discerning whether or not a leak is real or not, on top of like games journalists taking the time to try and vet their source for the source in order to understand whether or not these leaks and these rumors are worth reporting on, because if they're wrong and they're constantly wrong about it, then that just makes them look bad and they're not going to get views and clicks anymore. Their credibility's tanked. So I think some of that is being like remedied. But once again, if the companies were much more forthright with their information, it'd be great. And at the same time, if these like leakers have to stay hidden and the rumors have to be basically kind of ambiguous in order to protect these sources, so that way we can still get those kind of that information. So like, I don't think it's any secret Nintendo was developing a new Fire Emblem game, to go back to that example. But look at it, like it probably makes sense. Like Fire Emblem Three Houses came out huge. They did DLC, big explosion there. They're doing the new Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes. That's coming out soon. And I think that's why it's got delayed, was because Nintendo is probably looking at its whole schedule. Metroid Prime 4 is not ready. Splatoon 3 is coming. They've got some other games. Bayonetta 2 is in Bayonetta 3, excuse me, is in a weird spot. And they may have one or two other games still like on the one. The 1-2 Switch sequel is apparently trash, and they know it, and they just don't know what to do about it. They were launching their new service, and I'm sure like a lot of their plans are just shuffling things around. Like this game's done, but we've got Three Hopes coming out, so let's push it back so we don't do too much Fire Emblem at once, which I think is smart. But it to be like done, that's the funny part to me. It's like it's done and they're just holding on to it. I'm like, I guess it's going to be really good.
Well, we don't. You saw those screenshots; those could be like from years ago.
They could be.
I hope they're from years ago because they look bad.
It looks a little rough. It looks kind of plain, like in the middle of something. But yeah, it could be like early beta test footage from like stuff, or maybe like who knows, video editors and things like that, because they have to get advanced footage to make the trailers. So they might,
yeah, that's true.
They might even get early builds or just early footage to like play around with to capture video if or someone might be helping them, and they take a few pictures and reference shots, and they're compositing and bringing like storyboards to for that. I don't even know really how the trailer process works professionally, but I'm assuming that a lot of that stuff could be there because they'll want approval. Yeah, that would be very. And actually, I don't hate the look of the protagonist. I see how it's shocking to people, but also I see like, now we don't know if the main character is definitively a waifu or not. It could be male and female, just like how all the protagonists are, and just the female one is the one they're showing off right now. But yeah, when I think about it, like there's usually always two kingdoms, two sides, or multiple factions. So like, kind of like how Corrin worked in that Fire Emblem game. Which one was
Fates? I didn't play Fates.
Fates.
Like play Fates.
The characters, male, female. It's gray. There's the two different kingdoms, and it's the characters caught between them. And so for this, it could be like this character, like, oh, why don't we just mix in the color thing? Because it's striking. It stands out. Like you're going to have the red kingdom and the blue kingdom, and this character's somewhere in between. And, it's just very heavy visual metaphor. And I'm just like, whatever. Like, okay. Like, it's super anime.
I like the idea of it matching your Joy-Cons.
I do too.
That's my hope.
That would be hilarious.
I have a orange and purple Joy-Con. So like that would look cool on the protagonist's hair.
And they usually have customization to some extent for the protagonist. There's the default look, but you can pick like different heads and stuff, even for Robin.
And actually, I think there are like third-party Joy-Cons where you can like use an app to set the color that it like tells the Switch that it is.
That's pretty dope.
So you could just like make it be any color.
That's pretty dope. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully, or at least there'll be some sort of customization so that you can match their hair to the Joy-Cons if you want. Who knows? We don't know, but that's pretty neat. And I'm sure it's partially inspired by that. And then they're just like, it fits thematically. That's I think a lot of the Japanese development decisions are made very intentionally for like thematic reasons, but they come off really weird because when they don't work out or they feel very garish, they're like it just it stops making sense. Like, why would you do it this way when it's like, no, we just because we want it to. It made sense to us. So um trying to think if there was anything else because we're nearing the end of the episode. But oh, what was it? Yeah, we talked about the leaks. Oh, like pre-order bonus stuff. So let's end on that because we haven't looped back to it. It is kind of a shame, and I've talked about this I think on monetization and stuff like that. Is like it's so weird. Some of the marketing for like pre-order bonus stuff sucks. Like, did you hear about Sonic Origins and its pre-order stuff?
Is that a new game or is that one from past?
Sonic Origins is the newly released collection of the classic Sonic games from Genesis and Sega CD. So it's Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic CD.
Oh yeah, that's the one that's like upscaled graphics or something where they're
Yes.
like they're re-releasing the same games, but like supposedly they're doing something to make them better.
They did some minor feature updates and stuff like that, collecting
Yeah, I
all the
heard
stuff
about that. I
together.
think they were talking about that on Sacred Symbols, and they were
Yeah.
just like, seriously, they're charging $40 for this thing?
Yeah, they delisted all the old versions of the games on there. Also the versions that they're doing are the engines are redone by the people who made Sonic Mania, so like they're really good ports of the old Sonic games. So in a way that's, very positive. But there's two big messy things. One is and this is for all the versions, not really pre-marketing. They didn't really make a big deal of this too much. They tried to, they acknowledged it, but tried not to play it up too much. Is that they stripped out a number of tracks from the Sonic 3 soundtrack because it turns out that Michael Jackson was indeed involved in producing them. So licensing fees caught up with them finally, and I think that's part of the reason why they had to do this collection in the first place, was because they have to put the games out again and they have to do this. They have to do Sonic 3 with different music. So what they did is they took their old beta music, which is the original tracks they were working on, and I think they finally finished. They had them finished for this and swapped them in. And right now, a lot of people are going like, that music's not iconic. There's no reason to put that music in there as like the only option you can have. This is really unfortunate because some of that music is extremely memorable. And then the other part was more the pre-order bonus stuff. There's all these weird like features you can get based on which version of the game you pre-order, and there's apparently like 3 or 4 different versions.
Oh, and yeah, didn't they put out like a chart or something? I hate when companies do that. They have like, oh, this version gets you all these check marks, and this one gets you even more check marks.
Yeah.
In the columns.
Exactly. And it's really unfortunate because like this chart, and apparently it took them like a week before they put out another chart that actually showed like there is like a super deluxe version that will have almost everything. Now, some of the features that they were showing are basically like early unlocks for in-game features if you like pay the money for it, which is also kind of silly. But like, if it's a feature to unlock in the game, just make it unlockable. Or also, it's not clear which features were like, is this an early unlock, or can I literally not access this feature unless I get this version? Like, is it a DLC lock type thing, which is also dumb. It's so frustrating. Like, I didn't buy this, I'm not buying it. If I want to play one of those old Sonic games, I'll just emulate it, and I don't really care. And I'll be able to play with the original music and all that stuff. So whatever, it's fine for me. Yeah, the pre-order bonus stuff gets really upsetting. In general, people shouldn't pre-order games, and companies trying to incentivize these pre-order bonuses for giving people money without product sight unseen is also very just sketchy and skeezy. So I try to stay away from most pre-order bonuses unless it's something I'm really confident in and like I want the swag. So and it, like you said, I think Ed, I think you made a great point, and I've said something similar but different. Was like, wouldn't it be cool if they just sold these collector's edition swags separately as like a thing you can just buy, and then the game, is separate. That way, if you want the swag, you can get it. And if you don't want it, or like, because people want digital versions of the games, and they might want the physical swag too, but they prefer the digital. And like, you can't get the physical swag with a digital code. They'll always try to bundle the physicals together, despite the fact that the market's becoming ever more mixed at this point. So
I think the real reason is that, like, considering the quality of most of these pack-ins, if they sold them separately, nobody would buy them because most of them are garbage. I feel like they aren't good enough products to stand on their own, and the only reason they and they don't even always sell out. Like I said, sometimes they have a bunch left over, but the only reason they often do sell out is just because they're limited and because of the FOMO. But other than that, I feel like a lot of the stuff that has been included in some of these special editions has just been low quality in my opinion. And an actual standalone good has a higher expectation of quality. And I have bought like standalone products that, like, I've bought figures that I've liked. I've bought art books, but like all of those things that have been their own products have been like miles above anything I've ever gotten in a pre-order edition, like a special edition.
sure, yeah. And then there's all sorts of weird unlocks, and the being vague about what is and is not like an actual feature of the game for pre-order bonuses is so strange. I have no idea what actually attracts people to buy the special editions other than hype for the game and wanting to have some like merchandise. At the same time, merchandising for video games has become better than ever, and it's like, why don't you just release this stuff separately for like people to buy it? And like you said, the quality is rarely to the point where like the exclusive thing is great. And I don't see why they would do that. Like, I think thinking of Resident Evil again, Resident Evil 2 I think had some kind of statue. I forget it. I think it was Leon. I don't think it was Leon and Claire. I think it was just Leon. And now I'm looking at like I was looking at a store online, and they're advertising these new Resident Evil 2 figures that are like $300 a piece, Leon and Claire, and it's like they're fully posable. They have like cloth outfits. They have a bunch of accessories that are like replicas of the things in game, like the guns, the handguns, the ammo boxes, a couple different items and other weapons and things like that. I'm like, oh wow, like if I was like a big time figure collector, like I'm like, it would be super that would be super appealing to me. And if they like bundled the game with that, I'd be like, that's totally rad. I wouldn't pay $360 for it, but like $300 for like that figure plus the game, I'd be like, I might actually think that's really dope, but that's not what they usually do. I'm trying to think of any special editions that I was super happy with that I've purchased over the years, and I've stopped pre-ordering for the most part. The only other things I really kind of pre-order is like especially for fighting games, like if they lock one DLC character for free just behind giving them the money early, I'm like, fine, it doesn't cost me anything extra. It's a very crappy practice, but I'll at least do it to save myself the cash because I know I'm buying it anyways. But I try to hold out as much as I can when it comes to stuff like that, because it's so annoying to have to deal with this like weird value proposition. But everyone can make their own value proposition as well. Like, if you don't want to pay full price for a game, like we were talking about The Last of Us Part 1, and the price seems a little too much for this game, despite like all the changes they are making. And I've been reading up, and I've been talking to some friends who are psyched for it and learned about like they are doing some more overhauls to it. Until we can see the final product, it's hard to say exactly if it's as good as they make it sound. And I can also understand people who are very upset that it's not going to include the multiplayer because it's being split off into a separate project. So is that really still a full package considering? The only justification I have is like it's going to come to the PC. That's going to be the only version for PC. So like picking it up at 70 as like the definitive PC version, it's like, okay, I'm getting it for a new platform. But for people who have never played The Last of Us Part 1, and it's available on Game Pass, not Game Pass, but PlayStation Plus collection, I think, or it's at least on sale for really cheap, and you can just play The Last of Us Remastered. it's a weird value proposition. Um, and it's just tough to say. But you can always wait. You don't have to buy things day one. You can wait till it's on a steep sale. There's plenty of other games to play. So like voting with your wallet, as much as I say it's kind of a dubious thing, like you at least don't have to pay more than you're comfortable with, but you have to wait and you have to be comfortable with waiting. And I understand that, for some people that can be really tough, but that is a personal responsibility, not while also the companies shouldn't be pricing things terribly, but when they do, at least there's ways around it.
Yeah. I mean, I've come around to and I guess I've done this for a while. Like, I'm willing to spend the full price on a game when it comes out if it's something that, particularly if it's something that is probably going to be a niche title, and I want to, offer my support. Like, I'm definitely gonna buy Soul Hackers 2 on release, and I'm gonna do that on Xbox just because I want to show that I want those games to be multi-platform, even
Mhm.
on platforms that aren't traditionally associated with Atlas. So
Yep. Um. Oh. Two more quick points. I have a question and a statement. Statement is, uh, it's less common now, but like when big companies do like the Kickstarters, that was a terrible trend for marketing. Whenever they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put the game up on Kickstarter so we can help make the project," I'm like, no, no, don't do that. Don't ever do that. Don't do that again. It's terrible and like whatever. Shenmue 3 is still
what
bad.
about indies? Like, was Psychonauts 2 okay to be crowdfunded?
Oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, like, but after Microsoft backed them, like, I feel like the people should have got their money back or should have been reimbursed in some way, because that's
Well, to
like,
be fair, if you the only way to get a physical copy was to have backed it. So like
oh, okay.
they never did a retail physical release. So if you wanted a physical copy, like PlayStation, it's only digital. I don't think they had a physical Xbox release either. It was all digital. So the only way to have gotten a physical copy for that was to be an original backer.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Um, yeah, no, I was saying Shenmue 3 still sucks despite what happened there. Um,
Mighty Number Nine.
number 9, oh man. Well, that's different. That was indie. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
guess
saying, like,
that's true.
Ubisoft, Activision, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, they have no excuse for doing any sort of like Kickstarter crowdfunding campaigns for their games. They have the money. Don't do that. Just do that. And then let me ask you, Ed, like, do you think, like, considering we no longer live in a society of scarcity when it comes to games for the digital market, and not so much physical, for major title releases, do you think like there's even a point to pre-ordering games anymore? Like, should companies really be allowed to ask for your money ahead of time, despite the fact that there's basically no scarcity?
I don't think digital pre-orders should be allowed at all. I guess now that you asked that question, no, I don't think you should be able to pre-order a game digitally. Maybe I could say like a week ahead of time you could, because if you really must play it on like the midnight release, you might want to have it like downloaded. But like, there's no way they should be taking your money months in advance. And if they do allow you to pre-order, what it should be like is it should be like Amazon, where Amazon does not charge you for an item until they ship it. So it should not charge you for your pre-order, and you should be able to cancel at any time up until that week before when it starts the download. So that should be their their cancel policy. Like, if I pre-order a game now that digitally that's coming out in 6 months, it shouldn't take the money out of my account. It should take it when it begins downloading. Just like if I pre-order a game on Amazon, it doesn't charge me until it ships, and I can cancel it with a click of a button at any time. That's how it should work.
Yeah, I have sympathy for people for digital downloads that want to do the preloading, especially if they live in a part of the country that has data caps. I think that can make a lot of sense to do that. And I think that's probably the most sensible, is like you're not allowed to list a digital pre-order with unless it's like within a week or two, some time limit close to the actual launch of the game. And piggybacking off that though is also like DLC marketing you know, do you have any feelings about like how DLC should be marketing pre-release of a game?
Uh, I really don't like the trend of all of these like digital deluxe editions. I think I guess I get like that they want to make up their rising development costs somehow. I mean that it's nice to have like a base copy of the game where still the base price of a game is 60, but maybe now 70 depending on which publisher. Um, but it, another thing like that's funny about these digital deluxe editions is sometimes when they have sales of a game like a year after its release, they don't put the base edition on sale. They put the digital deluxe edition on sale. So you like if you want to get a lower price, you have to buy all this crap that you wouldn't want anyway. Um, but and I especially do not like pre-order bonuses that can only be had by pre-ordering, even if it's something
Yeah,
small. Like
pre-order only stuff is
yeah,
so
that's not
annoying.
that's not cool.
Um, I would say also like I am against DLC being advertised pre-launch. Um, and I don't like season passes where I don't like them announcing season passes where you don't know what the content is going to be. Um, I think you shouldn't be allowed to mention that, or you shouldn't be allowed to take pre-orders for season passes and DLC without explicitly stating what it is. Like it's going to be, at least it has to be like extra stages. If it's costumes, you have to tell what costumes it's going to be, who's getting the costumes, that kind of thing, what they're going to be. Like it needs to be some pretty specific details if you're going to allow for a pre-order. Otherwise, like them just saying we're going to put it up there and let people spend the money. Now, I can see I hear the argument of it's personal responsibility not to invest that money into that stuff. At the same time, it can be a pain in the butt to try and get that money back if it never comes out, or if you get it and it's not what you wanted, then you're out that money. And it's like, I don't think you should be allowed to market that you've got this stuff coming and be able to take their money without being able to show off what it is. I don't think companies should be allowed to get that money and be allowed to ask for it either. You can tell people like we're getting stuff coming. I still don't like doing that either, but I can understand for like certain games where part of it is like very games of service, or like supporting the game long term encourages people to like buy it because they know it'll be updated. And then there's also examples where you should say like what stuff's going to be free and what stuff's going to be paid for. Just imagine what it would have been like. We can go back to Nintendo for a sec. Is like for Super Mario Party, if they would have said like, look, it's not launching with online at launch, but in a free update we'll be adding online support. I'm pretty sure they never even mentioned that before.
Yeah, I'm still holding out for new boards for Mario Party Superstars, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I think it's still likely. Or you're just gonna get Mario Superstars 2, Mario Party Superstars 2, in which case you'll
But
get 5
I
more.
don't want it under a different title. I want it all
I
in the
hear ya.
same game.
I hear you. I get that. Then you just can't buy it if they do it. You know, you have to skip it.
Yeah.
Can you live?
I guess I do have to vote with my dollar on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you know, you just get it on a really steep. You buy a used copy at some point if you really can't.
I don't want a physical copy of that.
I know, but
there are no steep sales for Nintendo games digitally.
Not digitally, no. Although there was an eShop sale going on recently that was like some titles going down up to like $20. They were saying, I even know which ones it was because I have all the ones I care about.
It wasn't. I don't think it was Nintendo first party titles.
There were some.
Oh, really?
I saw it because it was in an official Nintendo email or a tweet or something like that. So I saw some stuff. You'd have to check and see if the sale's still going on. It may have ended. But it's there was certain stuff that they mentioned in there. I forget which ones they were. I think it might have. I don't remember, but I want to say like one of them was the Zelda Link's Awakening remake.
Oh yeah,
I could see that like realistically being sold for $39.99. I don't know if I'd still buy that, but that's a much more fair price in my opinion for that game. Yeah, that's I think that's about it for the marketing and hype cycle stuff. Like boy oh boy, can they do it so wrong, and sometimes they get it so right. And we've seen some better trends, but there's just so much annoying stuff out there. It's tough. Yeah, be smart, work within your budget, everybody. Be curious to know how other people feel about the different marketing hype. Hopefully, you're able to be more excited than less excited. But yeah,
Yeah,
also,
don't be a sucker. I've made my
yes,
fair share of dumb choices with regards to buying games, but I try to be better these days.
try not to buy in the hype and try not to get excited about a game that's more than 3 months away from release. Even then, still, buyer beware. I think
Be skeptical.
wasn't Final Fantasy VII Remake like delayed like a month before, but it was like but that was only like a 6-week delay anyways. I think something like that. But yeah, just be careful. Try to appreciate the games that are already out or that are coming, and keep your tastes open. Try not to buy in too much to the hype and give money away before you fully are confident in the product you're getting and whatnot. We've messaged that before. Thank you so much, Ed, for being with me today. Thank you to all our listeners who have been checking out the episodes. And yeah, see you again next time.
Bye.
We do it.